I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In 1861, Abraham Lincoln was actually not very well known on the national stage. South Carolina had already seceded in December of 1860, and yet more states would secede before his inauguration on March 4th. Lincoln's inaugural address had to do a number of different things. He needed to speak to the divided North and convince them that he was actually the right man for the job. Lincoln and the outgoing President James Buchanan went up to the Capitol, and Lincoln gave his first inaugural address, and fortunately passed off quite well. This is the final version of it, so this may have even been what he had when he was reading it.
We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be by the better angels of our nature.
These two items are really treasures of the Library of Congress. Here you have the actual inaugural Bible in which Lincoln was sworn in. So in the back of the Lincoln Bible is an attestation from William Carroll, who was the clerk of the Supreme Court, attesting that this is indeed the Bible he purchased and the one that was used by Abraham Lincoln during his inauguration in 1861. And there's also the seal of the Supreme Court of the United States in blue there. And then here we have Mary Todd Lincoln's inaugural jewelry. This is a pearl necklace and bracelets purchased at Tiffany's in New York by the president himself. This jewelry was worn by Mary Todd Lincoln at the first inaugural ball. When Mary Todd Lincoln came to the White House in 1861, she wanted to bring back some of the grandeur and style. So she dressed in very elaborate dresses. She had many made for her. She wanted to wear jewelry that was what she thought was representative of the First Lady.
Mourning, anger, and a wanted man. Tell me what we're looking at right here.
This is an original reward poster that was issued but 5 days after the death of President Lincoln. Of course, at that point, Mr. Lincoln's assassin, John Wilkes Booth, was still at large. And as you can see, when you total up the reward amount, it's rather an extraordinarily high figure, $100,000. And we're once again talking about 1865. That would be many millions of dollars if we tried to do a comparison today.
It would seem normal to us to see a poster which has photographic images on it, but these are not images printed on the poster. They're actually photos that are stuck onto the poster. Is that right?
Yes, quite aside from its historic importance as a document of the Lincoln assassination, it's an interesting broadside of the time because it's most unusual, perhaps unprecedented, to actually find real photographs hand-applied onto the printed document. The images that we see, of course, in the center, the assassin, John Wilkes Booth, and then in this instance, two of his co-conspirators, David Harold and John Surratt, and they were both involved in the conspiracy.
Booth was not some anonymous assassin. He was a matinee idol.
He was. He was a star of the theater, a member of the famous Booth family. Of course, his father was the late Junius Booth, certainly one of the preeminent Shakespearean actors of the earlier generation. And of course, his older brother, Edwin Booth, was a celebrated Shakespearean actor at the time and would become even more so, interestingly enough, after the assassination.
And Booth himself was considered almost a sex symbol.
The ladies loved him. He was very popular.
So the modern day equivalent would be someone has assassinated the president. P.S. It's Antonio Banderas.
That's not too much of a stretch.
We see this as this incredible artifact, this incredible relic, but imagine that at the time, these posters were probably blanketed everywhere.
Yes, there are a few other extant versions, and none are quite alike. As once again, we have hand-applied photographs. On other extant versions, you will often see the picture of Booth removed. There was such ill feeling towards John Wilkes Booth immediately following the assassination that these posters, people would take the picture of Booth and they would mutilate it. They would cut it out. They would throw it in the fireplace. So there's very few extant versions of the broadside today that have all three pictures cleanly attached.
It really shows the depth of the rage and the feeling that people wanted to physically mutilate the pictures of John Wilkes Booth.
That is correct.
Spectacles, a pocket knife, and Confederate cash. Clark, I've been lucky enough to see a number of incredible objects here at the Library of Congress. This collection blows me away. Tell us what we're looking at right here.
What we have here are the contents of President Lincoln's pockets night of his assassination at Ford's Theater, April the 14th, 1865.
These are the actual things that were in the man's pockets when he was assassinated.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely incredible. Let's talk through what these objects are one by one.
First of all, he had a linen handkerchief, by the way, with A. Lincoln stenciled in red. He was carrying 2 pairs of glasses that night.
2 pairs of glasses.
Yes, this larger pair, which, by the way, has a string repair at the bow. That was put there by Mr. Lincoln himself. And he had a small folding pair of glasses as well on his person. And he had a pocket knife that evening. It's a multi-blade. There's actually 6 blades on this pocket knife. It's silver and, of course, has an ivory casing. And a watch fob. Of course, in those days, no wristwatch for men. You had a pocket watch.
Right.
And, of course, this would be attached to a chain and then and also, of course, to his watch. It's made of quartz with golden casing. The only money on his person that evening, Jamie, was a Confederate $5 bill. He had no Union money on his person.
Abraham Lincoln was carrying a Confederate $5.
Yes.
What can possibly be the reason for that?
Well, we don't know with 100% certainty, but just a few days earlier, Richmond had fallen. And Lincoln did actually travel to Richmond, and this was likely passed on to him as a souvenir.
Some kind of souvenir of the fall of Richmond.
Precisely.
You know, we've looked at a number of different Lincoln objects here in our visit. And throughout, I'm struck most of all by how unspecial they are in a way. They're really very everyday. They're just what a normal man would have in his pocket.
And invariably, the most favorite of all objects within the library's collections are the contents of Mr. Lincoln's pockets.
It's really very touching in its way.
Indeed.
Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. It's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah.